And I'm here with Dave Hill from, oh, and it just went live. I already messed it up. You can tell it's been 3 years. So, hi.
Hi.
Hi, this is Les Jenkins. I'm from Stupid Evil Bastard, and I'm here with Dave Hill from,
Dave Does the Blog.
and this is the return of the SEB podcast, the once every 3 years, apparently, podcast.
Triennial. It's classier if you say it that way.
That Dave and I do. Hopefully, hopefully somebody watches it.
If not live, then Memorex. So
yeah, well, and it's true that my blogging has slowed down quite a bit, and I'm trying to get into vlogging and streaming, and I haven't done a great job at that yet, and I blame it on old age.
I'm still older than you, and I'm still blogging, man. So
I know you are. Although I think it's all imported from Google Plus at this point, but you're.
For the most part, yeah. I think I still occasionally post something native in WordPress. Most of it, though, comes over from Google Plus, just because that's I get more interaction through there, and I'm able to spot things and share things more easily there. Kind of go back and forth. Occasionally there's the big scare that Google's going to pull the plug on Google Plus, which I don't actually think is going to happen, given the continued investment they make in the product. But then I have to kind of look around and say, gosh, would I just go back to native posting in WordPress, or is there something else to do it through? And then there's kind of the whole ecosystem that goes out from there. So I like re-echo stuff from my blog out to Twitter, and then out to Facebook as well, and pull stuff back in from Twitter. That's something I was working back on again this weekend, is getting that connection working. So it's far more complex than it probably needs to be, and but at the moment it's kind of sort of mostly working. So
well, you're definitely much more active than I am, and I don't know if it's I think part of it is I've gotten to that point where I'll start a post and I'll be like, you've ranted about this previously, and do you really have anything new to say about it? And half the time I don't, and I hate to be that guy that just rants about the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I catch myself on my posting on occasion saying, am I actually adding anything new to this conversation? Or I'll just stop myself, because it's just like I'm literally tearing out what little hair I have left, and it's like, no, I really don't need to be standing on my soapbox and ranting obscenities over something that I'm reading or reacting to. So I'll usually stop myself at that point. That doesn't keep me from finding new and other interesting things to comment on, either from a geeky standpoint, or from a this is disturbing me on a philosophical and ideological level, so I'm going to share it with you. If I can avoid using 4-letter words, which is harder and harder these days, to be perfectly honest.
Gonna say it's never been my strong suit. Anyhow, so 3 years since the last time we did this. What you been up to?
Let's see, 3 years. That's 2 job searches, one of which I'm still in the middle of. Hopefully not in the middle of. Hopefully drawing towards the end of. And moving my so that's been a big thing, taking time. Moving my mom from California out here to Colorado, which was quite a challenge in a lot of ways. I used a lot of my project management skills and actually wrote it up as an example of a project that I had run for my PMP certification application. Those have probably been the biggies. Kid is graduating from high school in just a couple of weeks, turning 18 in just a couple of weeks. So we're very proud of him, but kind of looking at all the next things going on that level as well. What else? I guess that's, hopefully that's enough. Relatives, child, college coming up in the fall, and job hunting, job finding, job not working out, job hunting again.
It's interesting because I'm actually in the longest stretch of employment I've ever had in
So it's your fault.
3 years. Probably, yeah.
Okay,
Like,
good to know.
almost like we switched places, because I can remember a couple of times in previous podcasts back when we were actually doing them like monthly, for 6 or 7 times, that there was a period that I was unemployed and you were employed. So it's interesting 6 years later to see how things have changed. Yeah, I've been with BWI now for since 2010, October.
Wow,
2010. I was a contractor for a year, and then they hired me directly. So technically, I've been an official employee for 7 years. Been there 8 almost. My daughter, Courtney, of course, has graduated college in this time and just recently took a new job with her company that has her moving, or has had her move to Arizona.
Oh.
She's now living near Phoenix. She's making almost as much money as I am. She'll be 28 this year.
Wow.
I, of course, turned 50 last August.
So you're the young whippersnapper. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it qualifies me for AARP.
Oh God, yes. I remember when. Actually, the real joy was handing that first membership solicitation envelope to my wife.
They've been after me. I haven't signed up yet. I keep thinking about it, but it's kind of like admitting that I'm finally old. And so I'm reluctant to sign up with AARP. But other than that, for me, it's been 3 years of. The only other really big news for me is I bought a house.
You bought a house, yeah. That's very cool.
I have a very plain wall behind me now.
Beautifully paneled.
Which it's funny because Chrome will actually, or Hangouts will actually work with. There's an app that came with my webcam called Chroma Cam that will attempt to figure out your background and do a green screen effect. You can actually replace your background. I tried playing around with a little bit. There's an option that just blurs the background, and it would blur the mic, and it just makes me look like I'm sitting in fog. But the cool part is that the way the detection works, if I take the headphones off, it actually erases my hair. My skin tone matches the wall. And so it doesn't know where my head stops and the wall begins. So my hair completely disappears, and I look like I've got a serious concussion on one side. With the headphones on, it'll properly eliminate the background, but it won't do this.
So you got kind of like the brown Mickey Mouse ears.
Right. So, I mean, the headphone looks good, but this part in here, the pass-through is still unblurred or doesn't have the background behind it. So it looks like there's this weird warp around my head that's revealing the true background behind me. But I could put like a brick wall, or there's a little tropical scene I can put back there. But yeah, I got a house. And it's funny because people accuse me, oh, you're just sitting in your basement. Yeah, I am. This is my basement.
It's my basement.
Yeah. My basement. Yeah, not my mother's basement. It's my basement. But yeah, it's cool. So
what's been the biggest change with actually owning your own place?
Having to fix shit. When we moved in a year ago, the funny thing is the start of the month, May 1st, I was officially a homeowner for 1 year. But we won't have actually lived here for 1 year until June 1st. Because when we bought the house, the lady that lived here wanted a couple extra weeks to get her condo that she was moving into ready, and our lease in the apartment didn't end until the 31st. So we're like, fine. We thought she'd be here 2 weeks. She was here 3 weeks, almost 4. And we were getting nervous because it was coming right up to our deadline. And we ended up moving the weekend of the 1st and got out just in time. But I've taken over the house. She had an immaculate yard with beautiful flower gardens, and I work in IT. So unfortunately, first thing I did when I met my neighbors on either side, especially my neighbor Sam, who lives that way, he has a lawn that looks like it's a competition for Better Homes and Gardens. And the first thing I did was apologize. I said, I'm sorry. This is my first house and I work in IT and I don't go outside because the sun burns. And the lawn's gonna be okay, I hope. And it's not. My front yard looks like it has the mange. My backyard is looking a little greener. I got out and mowed them both today, finally, for the first time this year. But yeah, they're not pretty. And the flower gardens aren't pretty. But for being in IT, they're not bad, I would think. But anyhow, so what do you want to talk about?
Oh, what to talk about? Well, there's pop culture, there's politics, there's have you seen can we talk about the new Avengers movie yet? I don't know if you've seen the new Avengers movie.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally ready to spoil it for everybody.
Okay, so we have to give official spoiler notices, but we can't say how far the spoilers will go. Maybe we should leave that towards the end in case there are people that want to tune out and not be spoiled. I figured once we're clear of this weekend, that's 2 weekends for people to have seen it. We can talk about it more openly. Maybe not in headlines, but I tend to be very sensitive to spoilers myself, so I try to be really polite about them and really judge carefully what I'm saying. But I would like to talk about the new Avengers movie a little bit. But
all I can say is I was absolutely stunned when they killed Superman.
I know. I just again,
really did not expect that.
Using the Reality Stone to actually bring Superman into the Marvel Universe and then kill him. I mean, what is with that? That is such a poke in the eye.
Such a symbolic flipping of the bird.
Yeah.
At DC. Okay, so speaking of pop culture, here's something that I want to talk about. What the hell is up with all of the fucking reboots and remakes? Is there anything we're not rebooting or remaking at the moment?
Probably not. It's. I used to complain bitterly about those things, and now they happen so often that they're just sort of in the background, and so I sort of try to judge them as works on their own. I mean, when you do reboots and remakes that are too slavish, then it's sort of like, so what's the point? If it's sort of like, yeah, we had this great idea, but we couldn't sell it, so we put the name of this other property that we had on it, so we can call it that, but it doesn't really have anything to do with it, then it's sort of like, what's the point? But there have been some decent reboots and remakes.
Well, I have to admit, Jumanji, the reboot of that, I was impressed with that.
I've heard that was good.
We didn't see it in the theaters. We ended up catching it on streaming video. But yeah, it did work better than I expected, mainly because I don't know if you've seen the trailers for it or not, but the premise is that the board game ends up morphing into a video game and the kids get sucked in. I actually felt bad for the actors that were playing the kids because they get all of, I think, 5 minutes of screen time at the start and the end of the movie.
They're the ones cast as young person X, or real world person X, real world person Y.
But
I played The Rock before he was The Rock,
Watching Karen Gillan play the dorky geek girl in the hot, sexy body adventurer, Lara Croft type, and Dwayne Johnson pretending to be the insecure geeky kid, and the jock being stuck in the very short person's body, and of course the one girl being turned into Jack Black. I swear Jack Black must have just had a blast with the film.
Everything I saw, at least in the trailers, they all seem to be having fun. It looked like it was probably a fun movie. It's something I may very well stream sometime when I don't have anything else to watch or anything else to do. It looked like it was fun. It looked like they were having fun. And that's, I find, a real a real good criterion for that kind of film. Are they having fun, or is this like, oh God, get me out of this film before it tanks my career, kind of an attitude?
I'd say The Rock is slowly turning into James Earl Jones. In terms of, let me explain. James Earl Jones, I swear to God, has never met a movie he wasn't willing to be in.
Him and Ben Kingsley.
Right. If there's a paycheck involved, James Earl Jones, and I'm not being critical here, but he's been in some shit movies.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? There was, I think I've talked about this before, but there was a movie, I want to say Prairie Horror Stories or something like that. And the idea was that it was 4 vignettes tied together, and they were tied together by James Earl Jones and another guy were cowboys in the Old West, and they happen to cross paths in the middle of the night, and they end up setting up camp together, and they try to tell each other scary stories. And so that's how they were the unifying MacGuffin, I guess, to have these 4 different short stories made into a feature film. And they were terrible. They were terrible stories. And he didn't really do anything except sit around a campfire, and between stories they'd cut back to them and go, "Oh, that wasn't that scary, and here's something scary." And it was like, but it was a paycheck. So
I'm sitting here looking at his IMDb listing, and yeah, but he's also been in some some pretty cool prominent things too. So
no, again, I'm not in any way criticizing him as an actor. And the same thing with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. You go through some of the streaming services, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that was a Dwayne Johnson movie. And you're like, I didn't even heard of that. I didn't even see any trailers for that. But he seems to have an overriding theme that I guess he knows he's big with kids or children. So a lot of his stuff, there was something he was just talking about in an interview where he actually changed the ending. Something, I forget what it was, which movie it was, but there was some movie he was in that had a downer ending, and it was like, no, we can't have that. We have to have a happy ending. I forget what the hell was.
Well, and he's one of those actors that I think he's very aware that he's a very physical actor,
mm-hmm.
and so he's really trying to do what he can with that, for as long as he can, and build up enough of a body of work that he can then move on to other roles when being the action hero isn't as much of an option. Although it certainly hasn't stopped Schwarzenegger. So
true enough. Although he's had a couple serious turns lately. There was one, he was in a zombie movie, Maggie, I think it was called. And I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the trailer for it, and it was a serious movie, and he wasn't just killing zombies or anything. From what I understand, it's a story about his daughter getting infected and him trying to save her. And Jim Carrey apparently is doing serious movies now too.
Cool.
Although he's got a weird accent in it. You can tell I'm getting old. I can't remember the name of any of these damn things.
I was watching Predator with my son. First time for him, like, a week or two ago while my wife was out of town.
The original one, I assume?
The original, yeah. And as they're going through all of the big biceps reveals, because it's not just, well, they've all got, biceps the size of my head kind of things. But it wasn't just, who's the other, the governor of Minnesota?
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura. He's also in it. And just, my son's going, oh my God. Because this is back when they were still, the serious, uber bodybuilding type. And I thought, you need to watch. God, what was that first film that Schwarzenegger was in? That's him at the Mr. Universe competition.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, Iron something. Yeah. Can't remember what it was, but it's like, yeah, I mean that was an era when it was like, yeah. So you just gotta go along with it. Actually, Predator's a much more fun movie than than I think it's sometimes given credit for. It's kind of, I don't know if it was Schwarzenegger's real breakout movie. There were like 2 or 3 in that era.
I think Conan was.
Conan was okay. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's right. He's still kind of almost difficult to understand in Conan. And yeah, there's another one where he literally looks like a Frank Frazetta drawing in that one. And it's just and his jaws out to here.
Which also had James Earl Jones.
Another James Earl Jones movie in a crap role.
I recall he turns into a giant snake
near
the end.
Doom. Yes. Oh wow! And Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah. Wasn't Grace Jones in that one, or was that the?
No, she was in the second one.
That's right.
Grace Jones. Yeah.
So much for talking about remakes. We mentioned Jumanji and we got onto Dwayne Johnson. The next
the new Lost in Space Netflix series.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Watch the first episode.
That's what prompted this, though. Is like there was the new Lost in Space, the new Jumanji movie, and I think there's like they're bringing back Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but they're doing it as a horror kind of thing, like they did with Riverdale for the Archie stuff. I was never a big Archie comics fan to begin with.
Actually, the Archie comics for the past 2-3 years have been a lot of fun. They've been kind of more grown-up madcap hijinks type of stuff with some serious elements. Not like the TV series, which is its own little separate pocket Dawson's Creek universe. But I look at from the perspective of many years, I say, Shakespeare basically repackaged almost everything he did. I mean, he did it really well, and he added new elements, but a lot of his stories are based on stories and entertainments and plays and books and so forth that had been around for a long time. He just repackaged them.
Right.
Remakes themselves, if you go by the theory that there are no new stories and that it's all, kind of, you can boil it all down to basic themes. Remakes where they want to do something new and interesting and better with the concepts and characters of the source material can be really good stuff. Ones where they're basically just trying to cash in on the nostalgia and use the name as a way to garner up ratings rarely end well.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. And
then you get all the purists saying, well, he's not playing that the way the one did in the original, and that's wrong. It's an abomination against the laws of man and God. It's like,
have you seen the latest Star Wars?
The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I don't understand the backlash it's getting.
There's a backlash from the people who are just like, the original movies are the only thing worth watching, and they got burned by Lucas with the prequels and everything. There's a backlash from we hate Disney is awful, therefore we're going to criticize everything Disney does. There's a backlash from oh my God, they've got female characters in lead roles that aren't Carrie Fisher. It is bad and evil, and we must tear it down. I mean, well, there's also grounds for criticism. I mean, there's things you can criticize about the film, but the vitriol behind it.
Yeah,
behind a lot of the criticism I just don't get.
Well, here's the thing that cracks me up about it is with Force Awakens, everyone bitched about the fact that it was basically Episode 4 all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, oh look, it's another big giant planet killer, and they blow it up. So they do something completely different with the second movie, which I thought was rather interesting, especially considering the scene between Yoda and Luke with the Jedi sacred texts. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was, how many pseudo-religious groups would say toss it all out and start over, because maybe that was why these people kept going bad. What was it from the prequels? They weren't supposed to fall in love and all this other stuff.
Jedi does not know anger. Jedi does not know love. That's what got you in trouble.
Right. My point. So I thought it was a logical way for the story to go in The Last Jedi, because why the hell did Darth go bad? Because he was horny, you know.
and wasn't being given a good outlet for it, or a way to,
And
yeah.
he hated sand, apparently.
I hate sand. Yeah.
It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere. but I thought it was a good way to go. But and again, it was completely, it was a big what's the word I'm looking for? Change from the last movie, which everybody bitched was too much like a previous movie.
No, not taking any risks, not doing anything new. And so we'll take some risks and do some things that are new. Oh my God, it's not Star Wars
like
anymore.
That.
We're changing everything. Yeah.
Not like that.
Bring me a rock.
Different,
no, I don't want that rock. I want a smaller rock. No, not a rock that color. I want a rock this color. And they still won't like it even if they get the rock they want. So, because I think there's just some people that every Lucasfilm or Marvel Studios film that comes out, they're going to be wanting it to fail, just to show that they were right, or that they've got a better aesthetic judgment than the suits and everything. So like, I find them all entertaining. I mean, it's not great art, but by God, it engages, and it's fun, and it's creating a more rich, mythic tapestry. And by God, if they can keep doing it with commercial success, then more power to them.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've talked about this before. I'm not, I wouldn't know good art if it jumped up and bit me on the ass, but I know what I enjoy. And, there are a lot of movies I won't go see because there aren't enough explosions in them. If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I want to see some shit get blown up.
In 3D.
If at all possible. Okay, so what do you want to talk about? We've used almost half an hour on this so far.
Well, I mean, we've got TV and books and comics, or we've got the orange-haired elephant in the room.
You know what? Given how wrong I was 3 years ago when we talked about the orange-haired elephant in the room, there's no way that guy's going to get elected. They'd be stupid to make him the nominee. That'd be like guaranteeing Hillary the election, because there's just no way. There's no way. We're not that fucking crazy.
And for what it's worth, you were in good company. I think pretty much everybody thought that was the case until the day of the election.
I believe I tweeted out, "You crazy motherfuckers did it."
Sort of like Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes, right?
Yeah.
God damn you all to hell!
You blew it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's been sort of damage control mode since then. With the system has shown more resiliency than I thought, but there's still plenty of damage being done. Both above and below the decks, and this will be something that even in a best case scenario and a massive turnaround of Congress in November, we're going to be decades recovering from.
Yeah. I mean, and I can remember being, so wound up about George W. Bush.
Oh, those golden days.
And now I look back on it and go, man, a friend of mine once suggested to me that there may come a day that I would look back and think that George W. Bush might be the best thing that ever happened to me. And we're not there. I don't think that. But I do have to admit that I would give my left arm to take him back over Trump right now. For as bad as I thought he was, he's so much better than what we got now.
Well, and he had for all of his intellectual and ideological weaknesses, I think at heart he was a good person, or a feeling person, or a compassionate person. You look at some of the statements and speeches that he gave, and there's a warmth to them that no matter what he was doing or whatever Cheney was doing behind the scenes or things like that, that you really felt that he was someone who did care, even if he misapplied it in awful ways. And I've yet to hear that from Donald Trump. I've yet to hear any indication that he cares about anything except for his own reputation.
I believe that everything that George W. Bush did, he did because he thought it was the right thing to do. Now, I will quibble on whether or not they were actually right. I will argue that he had some policy, but then again, I'm a liberal and he's a conservative, so that goes without saying. I don't think he ever did anything
mean-spirited
or simply for his own benefit. Or
yes,
I honestly don't think Trump gives that much a shit about the vast majority of Republican policies. And as long as he's getting what he wants and gets to claim victories, that he will generally, there's a few things that they've bumped heads on, but generally he'll give the Republicans what they want. And that's probably the biggest danger,
right?
That he doesn't really give a shit. He just wants the adoration. He wants the attention. He wants to claim to be the best. And
he wants everyone to agree with that.
Right. I mean,
I think what strikes me as remarkable about Trump and the Trump presidency is that it's really testing the degree to which our institutions and our institutional restraints have been based on shame-based consensus. In other words, there's always plenty of wiggle room to be a bad actor and a bad citizen and to do wrong-headed things, but there was always a sense of there's only so far you can go before everyone's going to point and shout or laugh or say you can't do that, even if there's nothing that says you can't, because no one would have the nerve or the sense of shamelessness to do it. And Trump has basically said, I don't give a shit. I can do. I'm the president of the country. I can do whatever the hell I want.
And there's a couple situations where I would think that George W. Bush, or at least those around him, may have lied about something. But it was more, it was the typical reason that a lot of people lie. We got caught doing something we probably shouldn't. And so, fear of punishment, we're going to lie a little bit. Trump lies about shit that there's no reason to lie about.
In some ways, he's his own worst enemy in terms of just like being so over the top with some of this stuff that even his allies have to kind of, chuckle nervously and shuffle a step back. Or that those of them who are sensitive enough to national politics are like, no, I can't for the moment, at least until we're back behind closed doors again. But yeah, he lies, he exaggerates, he relitigates things that have already been settled, and it's always about whether he's the best and the biggest and the baddest and the manliest and has the longest missiles and the biggest button. And I have to restrain myself, because sometimes it's like he gets that smirk on his face and I just want to go nuts over it. And I realize, well, yeah, I used to make fun of people when they would say that about when Obama smiled. Okay, so I'll try to take a step back, that far back. But man, the man just drives me knucking futs. Look at the next thing he did. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like he thinks there aren't any videotapes or recordings of him. It's stuff that. Yeah, and the thing that it's not even so much that he's that outlandish or that shameless. It's that his supporters. I don't understand how he can have supporters that can. I mean, we've got the tapes. We know that this is a lie because we've got the tapes. But
it's the pathology of Trump supporters, and tarring with very broad brushes here, and so I will accept any criticism that comes with that, but seems to boil down to, well, but he's doing other things that I like, so I'm willing to give him a pass. It's like, the evangelicals, well, yeah, he does all this horrible stuff, and he's certainly not a moral exemplar in any ways, but by God, he's going to put, pro or anti-abortion justices into the Supreme Court, so all is forgiven. Even the Persian emperors were, working the will of God, even though they were bad people. So I'm like, really? That's the comparison you want to make as to why you're supporting Donald Trump?
Well, and even that I could go, okay, well, you're at least admitting that you're compromising your values over this. Then you got fucking Franklin Graham, who is,
Stormy Daniels is none of our business. So it happened years ago.
Right. But, Clinton gets a blowjob and he's like, oh, well, if he's going to lie to his wife and his daughter about this, then how can we expect him to be honest with us? Double standard much? Holy fuck.
Oh, yeah. But I mean,
I'm sorry, but and I know you were just trying not to swear, and I apologize. You got me on Trump. You got me started on Trump, and the swear words are just going to flow like fucking water. Okay.
Well, I mean, again, actually, the Franklin Graham thing just, reminds me a bit about the comparison between, Trump and W. Bush. I mean, Billy Graham, I had a lot of disagreements with on an ideological basis, but I always had the sense that he really saw himself as a preacher first and a politician way, way, way down the line. And Franklin Graham is he's a politician in religious clothing. And so he's out after what he's after as political points, not for the greater glory of God or service to mankind or anything like that. And that's why you get those things.
Yeah. And the thing that the thing I always love too is there's every now and then he goes, oh, Trump was placed in that position by God. And I'm like, you kidding? That's proof there is no fucking God.
Or he is cruel and capricious and wants to punish us for folks like you.
Probably. It's all my fault. I admit it.
No, I'm saying folks like Graham, not folks like you.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you've got the other ones where it's sort of like they don't care about the facts or the rationale or the logic or the ideology. Trump just pushes their emotional buttons. He's saying the things that I've always wanted to say, but I've always been told were wrong to say, but he's saying them. So he's one of us and he's one of me, and I want him in there because now I can maybe say those things too, and I won't be stared at and pointed and shunned by my neighbors. It's sort of like, yeah, it's a little bit of French Revolution, in a sense, Trump as the Revolutionary Guard, being willing to just tear down everything in a river of rhetorical blood, and the crowd sitting there cheering and doing their knitting, because he is in there supposedly speaking truth to power and draining the swamp and doing all this thing for the common people who have been put down by the globalists and the pointy-headed intellectuals and the liberals and the transculturalists and all of this sort of thing. And it's like, first of all, he's playing you. He doesn't care anything about. He cares about all those people to the degree that they're willing to vote for him and put him into office.
But that comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner hurt my fees.
Yes, this from an entire movement that has been spending the last 2 years saying, "Get over it, precious snowflake. If you don't like what people are saying about you, then turn them off." Just yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about speaking truth to power? That was very refreshing. And here's the thing that kills me about this. Isn't this like the second time that they've had a comedian come in and just tear them down. Did they not vet these people ahead of time? Do you remember Colbert?
Yeah.
That was a thing of beauty. And they were all, oh, I can't believe, he did that with the president there and blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you seen his act? Do you know who you hired?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever seen this comedian. I forget her name now. Oh, what the hell? Damn it, I'm getting old. But I mean, I've seen a couple of her stand-up specials, or at least one of them. There should have been no surprise. This should have been anticipated. Michelle Wolf, that's right. How did you not know? Do you not look into them ahead of time? Did you not ask for a resume? Did you just go, hey,
well, to a certain degree? I mean, there's the argument that the White House Journalists Council group, however they're formally described, kind of has a self-important sense of propriety, and we are, this is a significant thing, so it's okay to tell jokes within a certain level, but nothing that tears down the respectability of the institution. And so to that degree, yes, having people come in and be outrageous and actually kind of tweak the noses of journalists for not pointing out when someone is outright lying over and over and over again is probably a good thing, but not a thing, obviously, that they want to hear, because they are the White House correspondents and therefore above such things.
Then they shouldn't hire people that are going to tell them that.
Agreed. That was tactically unwise on their part.
If anything, it reinforces some of what she said. They're not doing their jobs the way that they should. They're not doing their due diligence. They're not looking into things like they should be. And that's why they got burned.
They push to a certain degree, but they don't push so far that they might get kicked out of the whole White House correspondence pool. There's a very kind of incestuous aspect to the relationship there, where it's like they've got access to the centers of power, and so they're willing to go so far to call out Sanders or any of the Trump, but they don't feel they can go any further than that, because then they might not get invited back or called on to answer questions, and then they'll lose all of their personal power and glory. And so, it's in a sense as corrupt an institution as the one that they're supposedly monitoring.
Now, having said that, I will say that the last couple of press briefings with Sanders, there have been a couple of reporters that have outright challenged her on some of the lies and stuff. So maybe that comedian going in there and tearing shit up is exactly what they needed, because it sounds like, at least for a couple people, they took it to heart, which is a good thing. Of course, Sanders is a professional evader. Well, I gave you the best information I had at the time. No, you lied.
Or if you didn't have any more information, you had a good guess and you intentionally didn't ask the question, or were told that you weren't going to be answered, so that you didn't have to out and out lie. But the other thing, I mean, again, this is getting into a look thing. Sarah Sanders just never looks happy up there. She always looks angry and sour and unhappy about having to talk to reporters. And if that's the case, why do you have this job? I mean, if you're not getting joy out of it, then why are you doing it?
I can only imagine it pays very, very well.
And it gives you access to the corridors of power, which, I almost posted, I don't remember why I didn't do it. There was a long biography about her that I read recently, and it's just been kind of interesting, how she, kind of grew up in her father's orbit. And kind of learn about politics and influence and public relations there, and how she's kind of made all the right moves to get herself to where she is now. It would be a difficult job for the best and finest of administrations. The fact that she's willing to stand up there as a spokesperson for this one, causes me to lose any respect I might have for her as to the difficulty of that job.
I'll give her credit for this. She's competent. She does the job pretty well, considering the outright fabrications she has to put out there.
Well, she's certainly able to put them out without batting an eyelash. I don't think she's competent to the extent that she doesn't sell it; she just asserts it, and sort of like, okay, here's the administration line. I don't have any information for you. Take it or lump it. And of course, that's perfectly in keeping with the nature of this administration and its relationship to the media. But I can't help but think that she would be more effective if she at least tried to engage with the correspondence pool in something more than a confrontational fashion.
Yeah. I don't know how you'd sell half of that stuff. You know,
smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
At least she's not Dr. Oz.
That's true. That's Dr. Oz will be around longer than she is, though.
I just really, Dr. Oz, really. It's like he tries to think of the best person for the job, and then who's the exact opposite of that, and then we'll go with that. I can't figure out. I mean, or it's either actually what it probably is have I heard of them? Oh, hey, Dr. Oz, he's somewhat famous and popular, so let's bring him in.
He was nice to me the other day when I read. He told me how much he respected me. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
I'm waiting for them for Trump to put Giuliani up there. Giuliani, came in and started, not only doing all the lawyer stuff, but announcing stuff about North Korea and stuff like that. Although he seems to have gotten his hand and head slapped 2 or 3 times. So whether he will be around in a week or two, who knows?
Okay, I gotta stop talking about Trump.
That's fine.
I gotta stop.
Do we segue now to the Avengers, because we're getting towards the top of the hour?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so spoilers for the Avengers if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
you can fast forward to the end where we say goodbye.
So
what'd you think of the Avengers, man?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Obviously, there were a lot of deaths, and based on what we know about movie sequels coming up, obviously some of those, I mean, I don't know, maybe
it's comic books, man.
Yeah, I know, but they kept the Russo brothers and Feige, is that how you pronounce his name? Both said that there would be real consequences, and they would take this seriously. It would be interesting to see, for example, hey, they killed Spider-Man. And it would be interesting if the sequel ends up being Miles Morales.
That would be very interesting. Oh my God, it would be interesting just on a meta standpoint to see how people would lose their shit. But, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's,
I don't either. I mean, that's the only way I can see that they could get away with that. Because I mean, they're oh no. Now, granted, here's a spoiler. At the end of the movie, Thanos wins. He snaps his fingers, and a whole shitload of people just kind of disintegrate.
Universe. Have you gone to the website that tells you whether you're one of the ones who were killed by Thanos?
No, I have not.
There's a website out there where you could just you go in and it says Thanos killed you for the good of the galaxy. So my entire family was wiped out. Just FYI. So
wow.
You can come and take all our stuff.
Cool. I got places to put it now. But I mean, obviously, my suspicion is because at least 3 characters that we know of have sequels coming out, or at least two characters we know of have. No, actually 3, because Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man.
We know there's another Guardians movie coming out,
right? So, and most of those guys bit the dust, literally. So either now with the Guardians, I suspected that after 3 they would probably replace some of the crew members, if not all of them anyway, because in the comic book the Guardians changed up quite a bit.
Boy, yeah, that's tough in a world where you're actually though making money, with particular cast and everything. But
What's
yeah, I mean,
interesting,
it depends on how many films they've contracted for and what they want to
right?
do with them. I mean, we all know that the original Avengers characters are all kind of at end of contract for with Marvel.
Yep.
So I mean, Hemsworth and Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. has been like on kind of explicit contract extensions now for a while. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's if you want to get meta about it, you can certainly say there's almost certainly going to be a huge change of the guard and major self sacrifices and stuff like that at the end of Avengers 4, especially
I
given.
expected that in this one
Well, yeah,
because of the contracts, but so I mean, it would be interesting to me. It would be a hell of a risk, and it probably would backfire on them. But it would be very interesting to me if they did say, "Okay, no, Spider-Man's gone," but in the next movie, there's a hole ripped in the multiverse. Whatever, blah blah blah, pseudoscientific bullshit. And so here's this African American character, Miles Morales, who happened to be Spider-Man in another universe, and he's here now, and he's going to take over. There hasn't been a different Doctor Strange in the comic books, from what I understand.
There've been other masters of the mystic arts at times, but I think Doctor Strange has been a pretty much of a constant. But I guess I looked on it as,
I mean, I know
in comic books, people die, people come back.
Right.
The original Infinity War collection starts with, Thanos has already gotten the Infinity Gauntlet at that point, and everybody is alerted to something, some heavy crap is coming down because half of the Marvel heroes disappear. And the rest of them have to figure out what the hell's going on and where to find it. And fortunately, they're given some pointers by some cosmic characters, but and then they'll come back. That said, I don't. The one death that really worries me, because it took place before all of that, is Tom Hiddleston as well.
Yeah. Well, my suspicion is that anybody that died directly by Thanos's hand is probably gone.
Gamora is an interesting case given the Soul Gem and all of that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean. And there's a certain degree, Valkyrie notwithstanding, that it feels like they're trying to clear the decks of all the Asgardian stuff for Thor eventually leaving.
Well, they did say that I think the directors did confirm in an interview that Valkyrie survived.
Right. She should be probably back next time.
Survived because they got out in escape pods and stuff like that.
But none of the big names. Unless they bring back, well, I don't know how many of the Warriors 3 all got wiped out in the last Thor movie.
Yeah.
Sif is still floating around somewhere.
Yeah, she got relegated to Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, and then she got her own TV series. So,
did she?
Yeah, she was on. What's the one with the gal with the tattoos?
Oh yeah.
That's her.
I forgot that was her. I was watching that for a while, and
we watched like the first season, and then kind of like it rolled around the second season. So like, okay.
Yeah, it was another one of those. It felt like one of those series was like, we got this great MacGuffin, but we don't really have it plotted out, so we're not sure what to do with it.
Or it's been more successful than we thought, and we can't resolve it at the end of the first season the way we were planning on it, so we need to kind of extend it outwards to say there's another conspiracy behind the conspiracy. Watch us.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into Lost, but it feels a little like Lost in that some folks figured out that they were in purgatory, and the rumor got around on the internet that they were in purgatory, so the writers are like, no, different.
Well, and you get into with shows like that you have people don't learn, so everybody there's the initial reaction to the weird stuff going on, whatever it is, but they keep repeating the same mistakes, and they keep like never listening to person X who always turns out to be correct because they're prophetic, or always diving headfirst into situation Y, even though they know that that's not going to work this time, and so they get stale that way.
But, right.
Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed the Avengers movie. Certainly things to quibble at. The change in Thanos' core motivation of becoming a Malthusian eco-terrorist instead of being in love with the personification of death, I thought didn't work as well for me as it might have for someone sitting around a conference room.
I'll be honest with you. I'm aware of comics and the storylines in general because being a nerd and having bunches of nerd friends, but I've never been a heavy comic collector. I have most of the Doctor Who comics that Marvel published in the States, and I have a good chunk of the Hellboy comics, but I'm not, I never really collected Spider-Man. All my Spider-Man knowledge comes from a buddy of mine that was a heavy into Spider-Man, and I read his comics all the time. So I don't know that I'd go as far as to say that I'm a comics fan because I don't collect that many comics, but I'm aware of and I enjoy reading them when I have had access to them, and I'm aware enough of the lore to apply it to the movies. And I'll be honest with you, they weren't sure that Guardians was going to work just because of how cosmic it was. I don't know that bringing out the personification of death would have flown with most people. I honestly thought that their attempt at retconning Thanos's motivation was probably the best case scenario.
Except that it's kind of dumb because if you wipe out half the people, that's like a temporary solution. You haven't solved the underlying problem of overpopulation or overdrawing on resources. Just killed a bunch of people. And in a few generations, they've backfilled for what was lost, unless their civilization collapses and they're living in misery. But
no, I didn't think it was a good plan. I just said that.
There was a lot that I liked. I loved just getting the characters together. The really vain characters like Star-Lord and Thor, or the really egotistical characters like Tony and Doctor Strange, and it's just. That was fun. The character interplay stuff was fun. The Tony Peter interplay was fun. That part of the movie really worked well for me, and there was a lot of big badass battles too, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and there were a few critics like there's almost no character development outside of Thanos. It's like, well, there's a lot of characters in there, and if you've seen the other movies,
it's a lot of team ups always sacrifice a certain degree, as opposed to a solo movie or even a small team movie. When you've got these big event things, you rarely can afford to take the time to do that. And so,
I mean, unless you want a 5 or 6 hour movie, which I wouldn't necessarily be against.
I'm willing to go take a dinner break and come back for the second half. Absolutely.
Didn't they used to have intermissions in movie theaters?
In the really long ones, yes, they'd have intermissions. They would have music in the front. They would have intermission music. They would have. An intermission, they would have the
lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Exactly.
Let's do that.
They kind of lost that somewhere in the 60s. Did we just drop? I have a huge waiting for people to join this video call thing showing up. Waiting for people to join this video call. If you're talking to me, I can't hear you. Here's. He's back.
It's back. I don't know what happened.
I wasn't touching anything, I promise.
It looked like it was a network interruption, and
it came back saying waiting for other people to join the call. Although it still said live in the upper right-hand corner, so maybe you'll have a recording of me sitting there in the dark going like, Les, are you there, Les?
Well, that's okay. Otherwise, it's me standing going, did I lose you?
Dave's not here, man.
You just suddenly froze on the screen, and I was like, okay, and maybe it was my end that dropped momentarily.
I guess we'll find out when we review the review the tapes.
Oh, hopefully it's all one recording. So I was going to say, well, we're almost out of time anyway.
Yeah. the podcast gods were saying, okay, we're flashing the lights.
You said it was going to be an hour, and it's almost an hour. So
that's what I thought might have happened. Did you have a timer on how long it was going to go?
I bet, you know what? It was Disney, because we were talking.
It was Disney, yeah.
We're talking Avengers spoilers. And they're like, quick, cut the broadcast. Because it's two guys with absolutely no viewers who haven't done a broadcast in 3 years. But you know what? Can't have Thanos demands your silence.
Well, cool. This has been a lot of fun, Les. Thank you for organizing all of this.
Sure. Do you want to try and do it again before 3 years?
Absolutely. I'm sure I can pencil you in maybe in 2020.
We did kind of say that the last time it was 3 years, and we.
Yeah, let's not make that a habit. I think we can probably get together and do something more. Maybe sometime, in a month or two, when the internet has recovered.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try it. We'll see what we can do. Okay, well, this has been Les Jenkins from Stupid Evil Bastard.
And Dave Hill from Dave Does the Blog.
And thanks for watching.